So this is Steve, and we're here today with Daniel Borgmann, who is running for the Allen Civil Division Court Judge. It's a non-partisan race, and we appreciate your time today, sir.
Okay.
And give you an opportunity here maybe to introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
My name is Daniel Borgmann. I usually go by Dan. I am sixth generation Allen County. One side of my family showed up in the 1830s and the other side showed up in the 1840s. I was born in Old Lutheran Hospital on Fairfield, as was my kids and my wife. Went to South Wayne, Harrison Hill, and Southside High School. I graduated in 1969, so I'll do the math for you. That makes me 63. I went from Southside to the Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and then I went from there to Ohio Northern University, where I got my law degree in 2.5 years, not because I was brilliant, but I needed to get out of school and earn some money and start making a living. The first job I had out of school was working for Judge Robert Myers, who was a judge in the Allen Superior Court. I worked as his law clerk for a year. That was a good job. And the best thing about that job was not necessarily just working for the judge, but it was getting to know the people inside the courthouse and understanding and appreciate how good a job they all do, and really the work they do, and sort of the unsung heroes that they are, that they're there every day. The judges, maybe you can take a view that they're at the top, but really the courthouse wouldn't work except for these people that work in the courthouse. After that, I went into private law practice, where I've been for over 35 years. My clients that most people would know about or something about, I started out being an attorney with People's Trust Bank. You have to be over a certain age to even remember People's Trust Bank. It's now Chase, but that's a lot of different changes in names between People's Trust and Chase. I did some work for the city of Fort Wayne. I did all the condemnation work that essentially resulted in Headwaters Park. I did some other work for the city in traffic and their engineering department. I was the attorney for the Board of Health for quite a while. I think I was one of the few attorneys in the state who was both a member of the Indiana Trial Lawyers Association, which is the people who sue, typically bring suit against people, and also the Indiana Defense Lawyers Association, which is the Association of Insurance Defense Counsel. I represented Brotherhood Mutual Insurance Company for a while and an American Ambassador. And the last one of any, I think, kind of interest was I was the attorney for Home Loan Bank before they got taken over by Old Kent Bank, which is now Fifth Third Bank. So I've had a variety of services that I provide for my clients, and most of my clients, really, other than the ones that are recognizable, have just been, people, average people off the street, normal people, what I call mom and pop corporations, small family corporations, and things of that nature. So I've had a lot of civil litigation experience, and that's one of the reasons I think I'm qualified. Going beyond that, another reason I think I'm qualified is there's a peer review situation that where attorneys basically rate other attorneys, and the main one is Martindale-Hubbell. I've been rated as an AV attorney for Martindale-Hubbell for as long as I can remember, easily 20 years. It's the top rating that you can get on that national rating system. I typically every year show up as best attorney in Indiana, best attorney in Fort Wayne. Those are sometimes popularity contests, I admit, but nevertheless, it's at least some of my peers telling you that I'm doing a pretty good job, the people I work with day to day. The one thing that I think distinguishes me from the other two candidates, as far as the background goes, is I have done I'm very close to now, 1,700 mediations. And that is essentially, if you think about it, and I do a mediation about every other day, what that really means, at least from my vantage point, is that every other day for the last roughly 14 years, one judge and two attorneys in this community have picked me to handle their toughest cases, to attempt to bring some type of resolution to those cases. And I don't think I get picked unless they thought I was doing a pretty good job. So I know that that's something the other two candidates can't say, because really there's only about 3 other attorneys in all of northeastern Indiana that can say that. So trying to resolve disputes in a amicable fashion is an interesting job. But be that as it may, that's sort of my background.
Okay. And you sort of touched on it a little bit. Why are you running for the position?
Well, that's not really a straight line answer, but let me stick with me on it, and I'll try to get to it. Actually, the short Cliff Note version, if you will, was there was an article in the Journal-Gazette back in January which essentially detailed the 43 people who had been murdered in city of Fort Wayne, the one person I think that was murdered in the county, and then there was a 45th person which somehow they couldn't really decide what to do with them. But somewhat typical, on Sunday morning I'm sitting there reading the paper and I'm going through that, and my initial response was, gee, this is such a waste. I mean, certainly some of those 43 people had brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, children. It's a waste from a family perspective, but it was also, I think, a waste for the community, because there must have been some of those people that had skills that could have been used in a more useful manner. I read the article. There was a front page article, and then you flipped it, and inside there was sort of bios about everybody. And then I continued on through the paper that morning and read whatever else. And one of the things I read about was fighting in, I don't know, Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq or someplace. And it occurred to me that there was a lot of similarities between the two, because both people here, a lot of the people here in Allen County who were murdered, and a lot of the problems that are in other parts of the world, is that those people really resolve their disputes sort of by themselves. I don't care what the weapon of choice is. It's a gun, a knife, a roadside bomb, who knows what it may be. But they really don't buy into a system that says, look, you have a dispute, let's see if we can't resolve this amicably. Or not even if you can't resolve it amicably, let's see if we can't resolve it. And if you think about the American litigation system, it's not perfect, but it's a really good system for at least allowing both sides to come forward and express what they believe is their particular point of view, why they are right and why the other person may be wrong. And then you've got a totally independent third party who's making a decision about what happened and what's the best way to resolve it. And a lot of that ties back into my mediation practice, where that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get both sides to come together, talk about what their problems are, and see if there's not some kind of peaceful resolution for that, so things don't get out of hand, because most of the cases that I'm dealing with in my mediation practice are high conflict cases. And so you're trying to get people just to react positively, I guess. So anyway, I was reading the article, and then, like I said, I went on and read about the Mideast or someplace, and I'm thinking to myself, it's strange that these people don't buy into the system. And I'm thinking, well, why don't they buy in? And then I remember there was one part of the article that said, essentially, particularly in the section where they had the bios, and they were talking about the individual people and the status of their case. There was a lot of times there was sort of this underlying theme of, well, people in the neighborhood probably knew a lot more than they were telling the police. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't those people come forward and do something? And you can probably say, well, maybe that's a middle-aged white guy's perspective on it. But then I'm sitting there thinking about it, I'm going, well, that's sort of hypocritical of me, because here I'm asking other people to step forward. Why in the hell don't you step forward and do something? So I kind of made a decision that morning that, instead of me bitching about everything, I ought to step forward and try to use my skills, whatever they may be, to help, people resolve their disputes in a not peaceful, but let's say nonviolent form. So that's why I'm running.
If you were elected, what would the job of a civil judge in the Allen Civil Court, what would that consist of? What would you be doing?
Mostly the civil court division handles litigation between individuals. It's It's obviously not criminal, so there's no crimes involved. I tell people it's one business suing another business. It's auto accident type issues. It is injunctions and things of that nature. It's the word civil is pretty good indication. It is civil matters between individuals or entities or businesses.
Okay.
And so most days that's what I would be doing.
Do you think it would be hard to make the leap from a mediator or attorney to judge?
I don't think it's hard. And the reason for that, I may sound a little arrogant, but two reasons. First of all, in my mediation practice, oftentimes I know what the resolution of the case is before the parties do. I know where the parties need to get get it resolved. And as a mediator, I have virtually no authority other than to try to gently arm twist people into a resolution. But I know where it goes, or I know where it should go to get it resolved. So it's a little frustrating at times being a mediator, because you have to sit back and let the people come to that resolution. The other reason that I don't think it'll be difficult is because I do a lot of substituting for judges now. It's called pro temping, and I substitute for judges probably at least once every 2 months. I was a pro tem judge yesterday morning because one of the judges was sick and couldn't make it, so I went over and covered his calendar for the full morning. And I pro temmed in every division of the Allen Superior Court and the Allen Circuit Court, with the exception of the Allen Superior Court's felony division. I don't do any criminal work, and they wouldn't let me in the courtroom in the first place. But so I know what that's like. I know what it's like sitting on the other side of the bench, so to speak, and listening and hearing cases and making rulings on evidence and making decisions. So I don't think it'll be that difficult. Maybe a little less frustrating, because at the end of the day, if the parties don't come to an agreement, I can make an agreement for them.
So you sent an email, I believe it may have been a mailer as well,
Right.
about some ideas that you have, how you could better things here in Allen County and better things in the court system. The first subject that you talked about was the domestic violence problem-solving court that would be within Allen Superior Court. Can you tell me a little bit about that idea?
All right. First of all, I don't put them forth as promises. I refer to them as goals, because in order to get even a domestic problem-solving court in the Allen Superior Court, the first thing I have to do is I have to get 8 other judges to approve it, and then I have to get the Indiana Supreme Court State Court Division of Administration or something like that to approve it. So I refer to it as a goal. But my goal is to establish a problem-solving court, domestic violence problem-solving court within the Allen Superior Court. I go there with some trepidation because people may view this as a criticism of what the Superior Court's doing, and it's really not. It's the Superior Court does a good job of it. It's just that I feel it can be a little better. And the problem is a lack of continuity. Let me run through a scenario. There is an act of domestic violence in Allen County. Well, what happens then? Well, statistics tell us that 55% of all domestic violences are never reported to anybody. So right off the bat, let's just say half of them, nothing happens. But let's say it gets reported or something gets done about it. What gets done about it? Well, one avenue is for the person, the victim, to complain to the police. The police come out, then the police deal with that in some fashion or another, make a report to the prosecutor. The prosecutor either files misdemeanor charges against the individual or felony charges against the individual. If there's a small child involved, that's a little different. So right off the bat, on the criminal sort of leg of this journey, it goes either to misdemeanor court, felony court, or it could go out to the juvenile court, the Allen County Juvenile Center. So that's one set of scenarios. Well, let's say the police don't get involved. Let's say There's just this dispute. Well, the next morning somebody goes to the Allen Superior Civil Division and asks for a protective order. Okay, that protective order is generally granted. It's the Superior Court's got a good attitude about this. They say if we're going to make a mistake, we're going to err on the side of caution. So it's usually granted as an ex parte matter. An ex parte simply means there's just one. The judge hears one side of it, and then the other party, once they get the order saying stay away, don't go near the person, whatever, they have an opportunity to come in and have their day in court, and both sides have to show up. Well, then that day comes, and what can happen? Well, both sides can show up and have their say, and then the judge makes a decision. Or maybe the victim doesn't show up and it gets dismissed. Or maybe the instigator doesn't show up and it gets issued for a 2-year time period. A third sort of avenue that can happen in domestic violence is oftentimes it's a precursor to dissolution of marriage. So then you've got a whole nother avenue where people file for divorce. And so if that happens, then you've got a whole nother set within the Allen Superior Court that are dealing with problems. So if you think about this, you've got sort of this criminal side, felony or misdemeanor. You've got the possibility of it going out to the juvenile center. You've got it in civil court, and you've got it in the domestic relations division. Essentially, you've had one incident that could show up in any one of the various divisions. All I'm suggesting is that we have a little bit more of continuity about the problem from start to finish, because each one of those divisions handles things in a different way. And so the best analogy I can have, perhaps, for what I'm thinking about is, if you think about the assembly line when Henry Ford developed it, car came down the line and one guy would screw a bolt on, or another guy would put a chair on, or a windshield, or a tire or something, and it was all sort of mass production, and everybody really knew what to do when the job showed up in front of them, and it was really a great way. It advanced civilization tremendously. But that's not the way most assembly lines are working now. There is much more of a team effort, and there's a greater understanding of not just the beginning product, but the end product. And if I've got a problem, maybe you've got a solution. And so that's sort of, I'm looking more for an integrated approach, more continuity from beginning to end. Indianapolis and South Bend have a domestic violence problem-solving court. It's time for Allen County to get one. That's simply it. And just to provide more continuity from beginning to end. And again, it's not a criticism of the Allen Superior Court's current system. It's just simply a better way, I believe, of doing it.
One of the next points was you talked about the establishment of an evening court. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well,
and I guess the first thing I think of is that show that used to be with
Night Court. Well, and I make a distinction between night court and evening court because I'm trying to stay away from people thinking about that. That was a great show, but that's not what I have in mind. Here's what I've found in a lot of times in my mediation practice, but also a little bit in my civil practice, is that people can't afford to take a half day off to go into court for a 20-minute hearing. And a lot of times, most of the things that are done in the courthouse happen in 15 or 20-minute or maybe half-hour segments. They don't involve a full-day trial. So you've got somebody who's got to be in court, and really they're only going to be in court in front of a judge for maybe 20 minutes, but they have to take a whole day off, or they have to take a half day off. And I've had people come to mediation and say, I can't afford to go to court. I simply can't do it. I'll lose a half day pay. I've had people come to mediations and say, I can't go to court because I don't have any more vacation days, or I'm on probation, or I've just got this job, and if I take a half day off, I'm gonna lose my job. And so my thought is, look, evening court, let's do a little bit of shifting of the hours. Typically, Allen Superior Court is open from 8 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. What if we just shifted one judge, 1 day a week, and had him work from noon until 8:30? You know, and you can do that with flex time. First of all, it's not going to cost the county taxpayer any more money for me because I get paid a salary. So depending on when I work, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to charge any more. My staff, they can be flex time. They can come in at noon and leave at 8:30. And the only possible hang up on this is security in the courthouse. So how do you pay those guys? Well, maybe we impose user fees. Look, say if you want to come in and use an evening court type situation, you know, you pay $20 or $25, and that's a way of generating enough money to pay for the security. Now, all these changes I'm trying to do, well, actually, I won't even try to do any of the changes unless they're revenue neutral, I guess is the correct terminology, for the county, because I know that the judicial system, the criminal, I forget how the county council refers to it, but it's the judicial system, the police, the jail, the courts, is the biggest part of the county's budget, and so they're not going to let me do some program if it's going to cost a lot more money. So anyway, so you've got somebody who works from 7 in the morning till 3:30. He can come in from 4 o'clock till 8:30. You got some guy that's going to work at, you know, second shift. He can come in during the day. You got some guy who's working from 11 at night till 7 in the morning. He's got a little bit more options, and it's just a way of perhaps with a little bit of flexibility, we're a little more consumer friendly, and we take a look at really more of what people are doing today when they're working and not working. Because let's face it, I don't think most people still work the basic 8 to 5 job anymore.
One of the other points that you talked about was talking about modifying the existing workloads on assigned cases by filling in where needed to help expedite the court's calendar. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's something that the Allen Superior Court used to do a little bit more of. I'm not real sure why they got away from it. Again, this should not be taken as a criticism of the existing system. It's just that I think there's some tweaking you can do. There are certain divisions of the Allen Superior Court that are extremely busy. And then, quite frankly, there are certain divisions of the Allen Superior Court that are not. And the Civil Division is one of those divisions that's not. Now, that's not bad because it allows the judges time to reflect upon the cases that come before them and write decisions and do that. There's a lot of difference between being a civil court judge where you might have to write a 10-page decision and being, I don't know, small claims court where you could maybe write a half-page decision. So there's a necessity for some additional time. But what I'm thinking about is if I come into the system, I'm the new guy on the block, I'm the low man on the totem pole, whatever you want to use. Why can't I go volunteer and say, look, I've got some extra time. Why don't I come down and help you handle some of the minor things, the 20-minute hearings we were talking about before. Let me take that off of your calendar so you've got more time to deal with the other cases and spend more time getting the decisions out. And the quicker we get decisions out, you know, the better it is for the consumer, the public who's using our services. All right, that's that concept.
Okay. Are there other concepts that I didn't have knowledge of that you wanted to talk about?
No, those are really my main 3 ones, and they are like I said before, they're my goals. They're what I would like to be able to try to do. Can't promise anything, but there are things that I think can be done. If I persevere and keep plugging along at it, I can probably move some resistance that may be there and try to get them done.
So I'm going to ask you a technical question. And what's the difference between a magistrate and a judge?
The biggest difference is the judges are elected and the magistrates are hired. They are appointed. There are, I believe, 9 Allen Superior Court judges. And there's got to be, I don't know, I can count them up, but there's got to be over 6 or 7 magistrates. So there's 2, let's see, there's 2 out in juvenile, there's 2 in domestic relations. The small claims judges are all magistrates, there's 3 there. So what do we got? We got 7 right there, and I'm probably forgetting somebody somewhere, but oh, there's a felony division, so that's 8, and then there's 2 over in misdemeanor court, so that's 10. There's 10 magistrates, and they are simply appointed, and they're attorneys. They're licensed to practice law, and from the public's perspective, you really don't know a difference. They're making decisions that affect you and your life, and so they are, for all intents and purposes, a judge. But from a technical standpoint, the judges get elected. I suppose the judges are the magistrate's boss because they're the ones who hire the magistrates and or appoint them.
Okay. I maybe don't know personally on a deep friendship level a lot of lawyers, but it seems to me that a lot of lawyers that I know or have heard of, they practice law, and it's like this lifelong affair. So I guess my question is, what attracts you to the law? What keeps that fresh and keeps you wanting to practice?
Give you a smart-ass answer. There was a scene in Top Gun where, I don't know, Tom Cruise's character is Buzz the Tower, and his backseat driver, I forget what, his rear, I guess they call it, you know, they walk out after getting chewed out saying, well, you know, where's that matchbook cover for, you know, truck driving school? For a lot of us, you know, this is what we started out at age 20, and really, we probably don't have any other real marketable skills, being kind of a smart aleck about it. But what keeps you going is, for I think most attorneys, is that they feel they're doing something worthwhile. They are providing a service. They're helping their clients out. I mean, that's the good part about being an attorney. When you get somebody come in, they've got a problem, it's problem solving. How do we take, you know, this problem and get it resolved and get you on with your life? About the only good thing, well, I used to say the only good thing that happened in the courthouse was adoptions and weddings. You know, if you think about it, most of the other things that happen in the courthouse, there are people, you know, who are unhappy with each other. There are disputes. There's people who have committed crimes, whatever. And those people have significant problems, and it's helping them wade through that. And I think the Allen County Bar Association as a whole, and I don't even want to limit it to that, the attorneys in this area really are good attorneys for the most part. They want to do the right things. They want to help their clients. They want to solve problems. They want to get the disputes resolved. And so you might have tough days along the way, and you may someday leave the office thinking about, well, I wonder if I could drive a truck. But most of the days, it's simply you feel like you've done something to advance society.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you wanted to mention or bring up?
Well, I am running for an office, so I have to throw in a couple of things that I think voters need to know about. And it has to do with basically being independent. My campaign, I've done 2 things to ensure that I'm independent, not just independent as a candidate, but that I will be independent as a judge, because I think most people that come before a judge, that's one of the foundations that you need to have that confidence that that person you're going to have make a decision for you doesn't have any alignments or, you know, favors that they have to pay back. So in order to do that, I have self-funded my campaign 100%. I've not asked for any contributions from anybody. I've not accepted any contributions from anybody. So I'm not beholden to anybody once I get in. And the second thing is I've not asked for endorsements from any political person, from any political party, either Democrats or Republicans. This is a nonpartisan position. My attitude is if it's nonpartisan, then it's nonpartisan. This shouldn't be somebody, I shouldn't go to somebody I know in the Republican Party, and I shouldn't go to somebody in the Democratic Party or the Libertarian Party or whatever, the Communist Party. Doesn't matter. I shouldn't be asking for endorsements. This is, I'm running, this is all about whether or not I can make a difference in the lives of people here in Allen County. And so I'm trying to be both independent now and if I get elected.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak to you.
And thank you for sitting with us. It's been an enlightening interview, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we wish you well in November.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Vote November 4th.